Chapter 1 in the Wilde text is titled Units, and we'll go into some detail on units primarily because anytime that you're working with electrical machines, there are some units that you're probably not familiar with, inputs, outputs, certain quantities that we need to measure. And in addition to that, there are conversions that we need to do between systems of units. So chapter 1 concerns itself with units. The first section, 1.0, the introduction, just talks about how important units are in our daily lives, and it discusses this idea that everything we feel and see and buy and sell is measured and compared by some type of units. We take these for granted because we've come so accustomed and so used to them. But when we start to study electrical machines, there's going to be some things that come up that are going to be new to you and a little bit foreign to you. And we want to talk a little bit about how these units were derived and what they mean and so forth and so on. He tells us that years ago, centuries ago, units were these arbitrary things, such as he mentions a couple of specifics. Centuries ago, the foot was defined as the length of 36 barley corns strung end to end, or that the yard was the distance from the tip of King Edgar's nose to the end of his outstretched hand. Not very precise, not very reproducible. Since then, we've come a long ways in defining units, and most units are now based on some physical law of nature. And the advantage of that is that these physical laws are both invariable and they're reproducible. So if we're talking about the meter and the yard, they're measured in terms of the speed of light and the time of duration in atomic vibrations. This improvement in these standards has gone hand in hand with advances in technology and advances in science, and one couldn't have been achieved without the other. He goes on with this section and talks about the basic standards of reference are recognized by all countries of the world. But at the same time, the units of everyday measure are far from being universal. For example, in measuring length, some people use the inch and yard, while others use millimeters or meters. Astronomers employ the parsec, physicists the angstrom. Surveyors still have to deal with units called rod and chain. But these units of length can be compared with great accuracy because the standard of length is based on the speed of light. So that gives us something that's invariable, something that's reproducible, and something that allows these different types of units to be converted because of that. Some standards of reference make it possible to compare the units of one measure in one country or one specialty to the units of measure in any other. Standard units of length, mass, time are the anchors that tie together the units used throughout the world today.